So there are certain rules and guidelines when it comes to the Supreme Court practice. Elections of the SCBA are upcoming in the next few months. What are the norms which are in place, including the ban on social media uploading of the court proceedings?
Supreme Court practice is a very unique practice in this country. For instance, every bar association of the country has gone on strike on one cause or the other, but till date, never has the Supreme Court Bar Association gone on strike. And the reason for the same is very simple. The Supreme Court lawyers very clearly feel that to make your own demand, why should you make somebody else suffer? If you want to make a demand and your demand is not being accepted, you suffer yourself. Go on a hunger strike, go on a demonstration, go on any other method by which you can make your point well known, rather than adversely affecting the litigants of the country, litigants of Supreme Court. So that's one very unique thing about the Supreme Court. The second thing about the Supreme Court is, and which of course has happened by judicial orders of the Supreme Court, that Supreme Court practice, or rather Supreme Court voters, are confined to only active practitioners of Supreme Court. And when I say active practitioners, means they should be regularly appearing in Supreme Court, they should be regularly coming to Supreme Court, and it is only then that they become members for the purposes of voting or getting the special privilege of a Supreme Court bar. We have more than 20,000 members of the association, but our voter list is only around between 2,000 to 3,000. So that's the reason why this screening is done, to only have those people. So many people today, a lawyer practicing in Chennai or Patna or Himachal or Jammu Kashmir, everybody wants to become a member of the Supreme Court Bar Association because it is a matter of prestige for him. If he comes in the interview and if he has the requisite credentials, he becomes also a member. But that does not mean that he will also become a voter in Supreme Court. So that distinction is there as far as Supreme Court election is concerned, or Supreme Court practice is concerned. That makes Supreme Court Bar Association very unique in this way. Supreme Court Bar Association also is the apex bar, and accordingly the entire country looks to the Supreme Court Bar Association to give guidance on legal matters and on matters of national concern. And that is why you will see that whenever there is an important issue governing the nation, where opinion is to be expressed, Supreme Court Bar Association either passes a resolution or files a petition to take up the issue so that a national issue can be addressed at the level of the Supreme Court Bar Association. Supreme Court Bar Association also in my tenure this year has been able to do a national conference, which it should be doing on a regular basis, where we have got people from all different stakeholders, government, we try to get the media, judges, lawyers, have everybody's perspective to see how we can make the institution a better place as far as its functioning is concerned. Because if you live in an ivory tower and are not ready to listen to criticism, there is no scope for you to improve. And that improvement can only happen if somebody like the Supreme Court Bar Association starts a debate, and that is something which is very, very important as far as Supreme Court is concerned. Now, Supreme Court elections also have a problem of having a cap on the number of times you can contest or be elected to a particular post. Like for the post of a president, there is a cap of 4 presidential terms, and I've done my 4th, obviously it is my last term. But the problem that we are facing in the current election is that in spite of my finishing my 4 terms and Mr. Kapil Sibal finishing his 4 terms, none of the senior members of the bar, who can be said to be good leaders for the bar and who can be easily elected, are interested in contesting for the post of the President of the Supreme Court Bar, which is a very sad state of affairs. Now, the result of that would be that the person who may get elected may not be really representing the Supreme Court in many ways, and that is why we had asked for electoral reforms, and the court had appointed, at my instance, Justice Nageshwar Rao to give his suggestions. His suggestions came in April of 2025, where he had said that as far as contesting for the post of president is concerned, the person should have at least 10 reported judgments, with the senior counsel having lead appearance to contest for the post of president. I think that was very salutary, because that would ensure that only people who actively practice in Supreme Court could be elected as president of the bar, because the president of the bar is really the face of the Supreme Court bar. But those reforms were only taken in April of 24 and 25. May of 25 was the election. So obviously within 1 month, they could not be, within less than a month, it could not be implemented because it had not been put in the public domain. But it was very clearly stipulated by the court that the reforms would be implemented this year. And unfortunately, because of the delay in passing the order on the reform, it is not likely to be, so far, not likely to be implemented in this year also. And if the reforms are not done immediately before the elections are held, the whole purpose of doing the reform will get defeated. And I think that will be a very bad thing for the institution, which is Supreme Court, because then the persons who have only, who have been working, and there are a lot of, in the reforms, there is also a need to weed out the bogus voters, and there are about 500-600 bogus votes also, who have managed to creep in inside the voter list. For instance, people who have had appearances in Supreme Court but have not entered Supreme Court at all. Obviously, there is something wrong in their appearances. So those people need to be weeded out. One voter of mine, when I contested last year, his DP said, "Rishte hi rishte." So I called him. I said, "What do you do?" So he says, "I run a marriage bureau in Agra." So I said, "But are you a voter in Supreme Court also?" But yes, मैं voter हूँ Supreme Court का. So obviously somebody was putting his appearance on the order sheet, and on that basis he had proved himself to be a regular practitioner of Supreme Court. Now these kind of votes need to be weeded out before the elections are held. And if this doesn't happen, then I think the Supreme Court is bound to face, I would say, embarrassment of getting somebody elected who does not deserve to be elected. So this is a very unique bar, and it needs to be dealt with in a very unique way. I remember once Justice Arun Mishra had misbehaved very badly with a senior advocate, and I simply wrote a letter. I was not the president then. I wrote a letter to the president that because of his misbehavior, we should not stand up in his court when he enters the court. Now, standing up in court is just a mark of respect. If you don't stand up in somebody's court, it can't be said that you have violated any law. The moment he saw my letter, the first thing he did in the morning was to apologize profusely. So there are ways and means of putting your point as far as the issue is concerned without making it ugly. But the bar in that way plays a very unique role in ensuring that the institution works towards the larger goal which the Constitution enjoins it to do. And that is why the Supreme Court Bar Association is a very, very important association in this country.
Sir, as the elections approach, who are the key voters for the SCBA elections?
Now, Supreme Court Bar also has a very unique status because, every High Court or every state, the eminent people of that state ultimately migrate to the Supreme Court, being the last court. So you want to really make your mark in Supreme Court. So the bar that we have in the Supreme Court, who are of people comprising from all over the country, this bar is a very unique bar in that sense because we have the best of the brains from the entire country who are the regular practitioners of the Supreme Court and who are supposed to be the voters. In this voter list, of course, some have 500-600 have infiltrated, as I just pointed out earlier. But if you bar these 500-600 votes, the rest of the bar is a complete all India bar representing the best of the brain from the entire country.